What is going on, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to part 4 of my very special Bond ranking videos. This is the conclusion. This is it. This is the final part. It took me this long to finally figure this out. So, where do we go from here? So, after the box office performance that was Die Another Day, Brosnan reluctantly decided to step away, and of course, which led to, of course, the arrival of Daniel Craig, and of course, the arrival of Casino Royale, which of course fans were blown away about, and of course, I could go on and on about it. So yeah, with 5 movies under Craig's belt, and Craig is finally done with the character. So where do we go from here? Well, again, like a lot of questions and answers, and of course, with the latest development that MGM is now owns all the rights to the Bond Legacy, the Bond whatchamacallit again, or well, technically Amazon, technically. Well, again, so many questions and answers, and we're going to see where the future of that holds. Of course, rumors are going around that Henry Cavill might slip into the role. Of course, that would be a great addition. Who knows, okay? Again, I'm getting a little ahead of myself. Let's dive into the Daniel Craig era. How do these hold up, and where do they rank? So here we go, all right? So coming in at the 5th entrant, I'm going to say this right now, it's going to be Quantum of Solace. Flat out, okay? I think I've talked about this in a previous video, and probably the entire Bond contingent out there would probably agree with me, is that Quantum of Solace was definitely the worst of the Craig era, or barely at the weakest, because there was nothing like about this movie. There was no car chase scene. The Bond girl, he doesn't even get the Bond girl. They rehashed a scene out of Goldfinger. If you guys know what scene I'm talking about, you had a very weak villain in Dominic Green, and of course the big question was, where's this going? Like, there was no payoff. I felt like I was expecting more at the end of the movie, and that's what everyone and their mother would agree. And but of course, obviously, we're led to our own devices like, oh, Dominic Green died in the desert. Well, of course he fucking did. He left him in the middle of fucking nowhere with a freaking container of just one canteen of water. So obviously he's dead. So what can I say there? So that's all I can say about that villain. Like, there's nothing else you can like about it. Like, just nothing. And the fact that it got a video game adaptation, and fans shout over that one too. So, why bother, okay? There was nothing likable about this. This was definitely the weakest of the Craig era. Like, I can keep going on and on about it, but yeah, that's why it's definitely low on the list. Probably lower than either Man with a Golden Gun or any of the Dalton films, in my opinion, okay? Coming at number 4 will be Bond Spectre. Yeah, I know what everybody's thinking. Why? This movie had some good and some bad. I reviewed this movie on my channel many years ago, like, because I remember seeing it in theaters. I saw it with my dad and my brother. I believe, yeah, and like I remember saying, "Oh my goodness, the story had me intrigued." Well, Christoph Waltz being Blofeld was great, but of course what really stuck in our craw was they completely rewrote the Bond words that Blofeld and Bond are stepbrothers. I'm like, really? Do we really need to go with that whole bullshit? Obviously, that really left fans soured. But I will admit, the fight on the train between Daniel Craig and Mr. Hicks, aka Dave Bautista, that was a highlight to me. And of course, it was finally the first time in almost 50 years that we've had a henchman played by a pro wrestler. The last one being Oddjob. Yeah, in case you didn't know, Howard Sakata, who played Oddjob, was a pro wrestler before he took up acting. Okay, of course I could go into much detail about pro wrestlers turned actors kind of thing. Well, like I could talk about another one too, that you probably didn't know was a pro wrestler before he became an actor. That was Lenny Montana, aka Luca Brasi in The Godfather. But okay, I'm getting off the track. But besides that, Spectre definitely was like a culmination of an overarching story that started all the way back in Casino Royale. Obviously, like I just mentioned, the aforementioned Quantum of Solace left me wanting more. Nothing was solid. Here, I felt like everything was kind of brought together and kind of said, "Yep, this is it. This is how everything has been laid out. What they've been doing. What Spectre is." So yeah, there was some moments of brilliance and some moments of disappointment. I could go on, but definitely a much better outing than Quantum of Solace, but not as but not as good as this next entrant coming in at number 3. I was having a toss up with this one. It's going to be Casino Royale. I mean, why not? Start with where it all started with Craig's outing and with Casino Royale. And I already reviewed this movie already on my channel before, but way about a year ago on my Action Sunday, where I talked about that. And like, what can I say? It was a pseudo reboot / remake of a Bond story. Well, technically it was originally a comedy. You get that whole deal. Seeing Judi Dench reprise her role as M was pretty cool. I love the setting. Mads Mikkelsen was fantastic as Lashif, way you pronounce his name. And like, yeah, and of course the famous car stunt scene that essentially made Guinness World Records. You know what I'm talking about, where he flipped his car, okay? And believe it or not, the Top Gear guys actually went to that same location as in one of their challenges, and I was like, holy crap, that I recognize this scenery, I recognize that area. There's where it happened. So yeah, well, good thing you didn't know about. And like I mentioned, if you want to learn more about my movie review, go find that review, and you'll know what I'm talking about. All right. Coming in at number 2, I was flip-flopping back and forth between this and No Time to Die, but at this point, I'm going to say No Time to Die will probably be number 2, because, I mean, despite the slog of a runtime and just a lot of things that I was waiting to be built up for, it was like a slow burn. And it finally paid off in certain ways. But then at the same time, you're like, oh my God, what next? What's going to happen now? And like, we're just expecting shit to happen. I mean, there were some moments of, okay, did not see that happening. And like, and then finally, everything comes together. Bond finally takes out the villain. And then, of course, this big shock of shocks, sacrifices his own life to save the world and his family. Yes, I say his family because if you don't remember what happened at the end of Bond Spectre, him and Leia Seda's character, apparently she was pregnant and she didn't, and they decided to carry out, he essentially fathered a child kind of thing. So that kind of leaves the door open for future Bonds in a way. So how I look at it is like, so she's telling stories about Bond to his daughter, who's now trying to wonder what was my dad like, kind of thing. I'm spitballing, I'm kind of going off the rails, but you get my point. No Time to Die, really good stuff. I mean, I could probably rewatch that, but man, almost a 3-hour Bond movie. I think again, it was just the studio just trying to say, let's wrap this up. Let's make Craig go out in a blaze of glory, and I felt like he did. Well, not a whimper, okay? It was absolutely not a whimper. And like, what he did was valiant and heroic, and that's how Bond should be remembered, okay? And this is how the Bond archetype should be, all right? And coming in at number 1, it's plainly simple. It's fucking Skyfall. Holy hot damn. I remember the hype going into this. I was really excited to see it in theaters many years ago. I saw it with like most of my family, and like all of us were just blown away with the story, that amazing song by Adele. It was just something about Skyfall that made us go wow, like we were trying to figure out what's the name, what does this pertain to, and then we find out, this pertains to where he grew up in Scotland. So and like that whole scene was good, and of course everyone will probably agree with me, out of all the Bond villains, crossing everybody, this movie had the best villain yet. And that was Raul Silva, because he was a former agent. He was cold, calculated. He actually knew how to play the Bond strengths and weaknesses. It's like he studied his opponent well. It's like he knew where to get him, and like it was just perfect. And like Javier Bardem, he totally deserved an award for his portrayal of this very fantastic, very smart villain, if you think about it, okay? Now, of course, obviously, he's not so... Obviously, the one takeaway is, like, if he was so smart, then how come he did not expect to take a knife in the back? I'm like, well, how did you want him to die? What do you want him to get set on fire or drowned? I don't know. I'm just spitting. I'm just thinking of all the ways. But, yeah, but I felt like the way he was appropriate, how he goes out in the blaze of glory. was a good way to say, hey, Bond will go through everything. And of course, yes, I marked out intently when fans saw the return of the DB5, and of course the big callback was to Goldfinger when he threatened to eject M, and the other thing was this was also Judi Dench's last outing as M, and then we got Ralph Fiennes slipping into the role. So again, kind of continuing the cycle, or kind of making things go full circle because the original M was a man, not a woman. So yeah, all that good stuff. What else can I say? Skyfall is definitely the best of the Craig era. That's why I really enjoyed that. My only complaint about the Daniel Craig era was no Q Branch, or good Q Branch, because I did not like Ben Crenshaw or Winslow, whatever the hell his name is. Okay, we just called him Millennial Q. I'm like, come on. Could have gotten anyone better. You could have gotten John Cleese to return as the role. That's my only complaint. So yeah, those are my rankings of the Daniel Craig era, and that concludes this entire series overview. So yeah, like this comes back to a question I have always asked my viewers: how do you prefer your Bonds? Do you prefer the old stuff? Do you prefer the new stuff? Do you prefer something in between? Do you prefer like the campy stuff? Do you prefer the high tech stuff? Do you love the women? Do you love the cars? It's all there. So yeah, it's like every era will have its trade-offs, its cons, its pros, everything. And at this point, it's like over 60 plus years, Bond is still going on. I hope we do get another Bond movie in the near future. And of course, again, I hope, rumors are going around that Henry Cavill will slip into the role. I hope he does, because everyone and their mother would say he's on the short list, that people would love to see him as the next Bond. Of course, that was something I was looking into. But yeah, I want to hear your thoughts about this, and thank you for sticking around to the end of this ranking series. So yeah, thumbs up for video, subscribe to my channel, and stay tuned for some more awesome and exciting content.